Dollar-wise, it will be a way bigger correction than we've ever had. Mining is the most competitive market in the world. So I wanted to walk 100 steps for every block on the chain. You know, we'll pop to, I don't know, 220, 250K US, unless you get what they call is like this super cycle. 8 years working 16-hour days in a concrete building. And you realize, oh, seed oils are actually originally machine oil, but it was rebranded. Great, your arrogance just cost you an opportunity. But I think Bitcoin gives you the encouragement to take responsibility because it requires you to take responsibility of your money. You should be a tyrant for your own body. Prime numbers for me were this persistent identity through everything. So you get to see the zest in their eyes as the aha moment. Now, do I think that the government's trying to control me through the water source? I mean, maybe. They're probably like trying to just cool my brain down. There's some curveballs in there this time though. A terminally ill asset, which is the US dollar, right? I don't really want to be a bank right now. I don't want to sound like an idiot because the world could run well with good quality banking. You never have sovereignty until you have cryptography. Wow, forever. That's heaps long. If everything's burning down, like imagine if you didn't have Bitcoin in this environment.
Man, you've gone down the rabbit hole.
Help me get out of here if you can. Yeah.
Last time we had a conversation, mate, you're a madman, studying Bitcoin hundreds of years into the future. That video is absolutely crazy. But what's the most exciting thing at the moment for you?
Oh my goodness, Schweppes. Now, I think just seeing the aggression of the miners, the Bitcoin miners, like they are in the craziest war ever and they keep committing to it. Like, because one of the hardest things about Bitcoin is, will the miners keep going? Because they are the security policy. They're the accountants auditing the ledger. So will they keep going? As the market gets more and more competitive or harder and harder to compete in, what are they going to do? And just seeing like the amount of just big industrial scale operations that they're going for, like incredible. Like, and you know, we just spoke about Bitcoin being hope. Well, the miners produce the hope because the miners, they are running in advance of the chain, meaning the miners have to take 18 months to get building leases, to get pour concrete and do all these physical things that don't exist on chain. But knowing that that's coming and keeps going, that provides me so much hope. And so I think right at the moment, just watching that dynamic play out leading up to the halving, because typically what happens is the halving happens and then you'll see a lot of miners fall off basically because there's this latency between the supply drop or getting halved and then the value capturing that. And so I think I'm pretty intrigued to see how the miners go because a lot of them might have a hard time. So yeah.
So that would be your speculation around the halving event that we are going to, like usual, see those miners drop off?
Yeah, I think just a bit. Mining is the most competitive market in the world. Like just like if you want to think about the 100-meter sprint in the Olympics. Ultra competitive, but 1/100th of a second can be the difference between, 3/100th of a second can be the difference between first and eighth almost. Like, these tiny micro moments. And in the same way, miners, they are like those 100-meter sprinters, where if someone has a 1.001 second edge on them, that can be the difference between gold and bronze or whatever, And so these miners with a hyper-aggressive micro margins that they operate on, because they're all looking for free energy, who's got the lowest cost of capital, lowest cost of energy and the lowest cost of capital. I think that's pretty exciting stuff. I think it's pretty gnarly stuff though. These guys it is the most competitive business. There is no bigger competition on earth. UFC, baseball, NFL, Bitcoin mining. If you're a Bitcoin miner, that's the warrior of today, in my opinion.
That's a really incredible way to think about it. And the way that you think about a lot of things is really interesting, very intriguing. And to be in your mind must be an amazing place. It feels like you're always in like this playground almost. And talking about miners, proof of work and relating it back to people doing a 100-meter sprint or something, over the last 4 years through this cycle, you just completed 21 million steps.
Yeah.
That's crazy insane proof of work. Why?
So I had a really hard time in my life and I thought that I needed to have a goal that was longer than a week or longer than, like just a commitment kind of thing. And walking is this process of, so when you walk, there's a thing in our brain called neurogenesis, and that's basically the production of new brain cells. And the things that give us that are usually closely correlated with dopamine or serotonin. So walking, really big one. And I thought, well, my brain's been battered to pieces, right? Really like depression and all that kind of stuff, and just a dark moment. You know, obviously we talked about in the last podcast, you know, you go through these big highs and lows of the startup journey, and that's what battle tests your soul or your mind a bit. And so for me, it's like, the walking was, I wanted to honor the persistence of Bitcoin, because to me, that's, like I said before in the speech, I said, I admire people that have such conviction in their opinions, because I feel so lost as an individual so many times, because I'm like, how do people know what they want? Like, how? And it just blew my mind. So for me, I was like, as a mental recovery, I need to walk. It'll slow my mind down. It'll also make me appreciate my surroundings and my environment a lot more. And so I wanted to walk 100 steps for every block on the chain. And so that was 210,000 blocks over 4 years, which meant I needed to do 21 million steps. And when you break it down, it's not very hard to do. It's 14,900 a day. Now, the average is 4,600 to 5,800 daily for a male. So you compare that, if we speak strictly in neurogenesis terms, then by definition, my brain should be repairing itself faster and producing more brain cells. And so if you do have these hard moments where you feel like you've been battered, beaten up, and you're out for the count, and you're out for the count mentally, not literally, but you think you're out for the count. You need to do something to rebuild your confidence, to know I can do hard things. I can do things that I didn't know I could do. And the only way you can do that is by sort of setting a goal. And so if you don't have a goal, you can flail around a bit. And I've definitely felt that experience for myself. But yeah, the walking 21 million steps in 4 years, was from the 1st of January 2020 to the 1st of January 2024. So this year, and both on the halving year. Thanks, brother.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
Before, so it sounds like you suffered from like extreme burnout.
Yeah.
With that, were you already a walker before? You're insanely fit?
No, nothing. I'm a nerd, and no, zero athleticism. I could swim okay in high school, but nothing like that.
So why did you decide walking? Was it something that you heard or you saw other Bitcoiners? Where'd the walking idea come from?
The physical exercise for one, plus I needed to, consume my surroundings a bit more to feel grounded, to understand my identity or who I am. And so part of that is I need to absorb my environment. And the best way to do that, I can't do that as well in a car or on a train or on a bus. I need to walk. Unfortunately, I like driving too. Like, it's way easier to get places. But my thought was, no, you're not in a rush. Your priority is to try and reintegrate your mind in a way. And so that was kind of the motivation for me. It was like, no, we're just doing it. It's going to take a long time, and you're walking everywhere. Chuck your car keys out until further notice. And that's great, but like, what a privilege, like, to be able to do that. I recognize the absolute privilege that to be granted the time to do that. And then that led to more physical things, because, through depression, the best way to recover from it is physical exercise. Traditionally, I think, obviously. And I didn't want to take a whole bunch of pills or something. So I was like, okay, well, let's just try and get shoes on. Let's get going. And through that process, I developed sort of a excitement for, physical exercise, because that produces serotonin. And these physical proofs of work, no one could take them away from me. And that was really important to me as well, because when you work, when you have these highs and lows in life, people can take things away from you that weren't ever yours, but you had the illusion they were yours. And so I wanted to do things that I knew were mine. And so that's why I had an affinity with numbers as well. And I liked numbers because I knew they weren't going anywhere. If I build anything on the basis of numbers, that's a bedrock foundation. Numbers have never disappeared in my lifetime, and I thought that was a pretty good start. And then also the physical exercise to complement that. I hadn't done anything. I've been sitting in a computer chair for 8 years, working 16-hour days in a concrete building. I think my body, my mind, and my soul they needed it. And I try and keep doing that every day, just as to pay homage to the shit times, but in a good way. I think it's the most constructive thing I've ever done to myself. It's a good favor for myself. My future self is thanking me.
Yeah, and even your present self, you're so vibrant, you're just so lit up, you're definitely not suffering burnout. Really quickly, ladies and gentlemen, I've teamed up with the Bitcoin Way. This is the professional Bitcoin IT team. They can help you master your Bitcoin self-custody. Safety Namus, the author of the Bitcoin Standard, also recommends this professional Bitcoin IT cybersecurity team. Their guys are absolutely amazing. They can help you set up a node, protect your stack, get your Bitcoin off the exchange. Make sure that you are following best practices. Number one, that it's air-gapped. If you don't know what that means, I've put their details below for you. If you're worried about SIM swaps, reach out to the Bitcoin way. Maybe you just want to know that you are doing the best thing. You're doing all the little tricks within your device to be able to make sure nobody can ever get into your Bitcoin, have any access. If you've got any queries about connecting to public USB and charging points, connecting to rogue Wi-Fi access points or malware-infected USB cables and flash drives, reach out to the Bitcoin cybersecurity team, the Bitcoin way. Free 30-minute call. They are at the top of the description. I want to dive into the numbers side of things. It's amazing. I'm always trolling you on Twitter, like, whereabouts in the universe did you come from, Michael, you know? And I wouldn't be surprised if you are from somewhere out there, because some of the things are so esoteric. But through burnout, because a lot of people at the moment are wage slaves, and Bitcoin does provide that bright orange future, that hope, like you were saying at your talk just before. What are some of the other things that you brought into your life alongside the walk? And did you change like your water source, the food that you're eating, the lights that you're looking at?
Of course, 100%. So sunlight became the king. Sunlight is the be-all and end-all.
But it causes cancer, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, not to my knowledge. I figured we were a battery, and if I take that methodology, then I'm going to say, well, sunlight's a plus EV scenario, so a positive expected value. Now, yes, it can cause cancer, like everything in excess, like everything can. Sugar causes cancer. And so I didn't want to take that path, but I knew that my body, it just needs it. You can't sit and look at blue light all day. Your body we are batteries. We were born on a planet that has a sun on it. We evolved in to capture the sun, just like plants. Open sesame, they're little solar panels with the chlorophyll turning, sunlight into energy.
Yeah.
Mad. That's a great invention. It's way better than sticking a metal solar panel somewhere. Nature's just looking at us like, these fucking idiots. They don't even know what they're doing. But yeah, I think definitely changing, my diet and understanding. I think what Bitcoin taught me to understand is obviously the community is very, they see through a lot of the bullshit really quickly. And I'm sort of the opposite. Like, the easiest person to sell is a salesman. And I'm very excitable. So I'm very easy to sell on the wrong things. But I got really lucky because the community is so aware of things like seed oils. Never thought of it, never did. And you go down the rabbit hole and you realize, seed oils are actually originally machine oil, but it was rebranded because that's not sounding good. And you're like, now it's called vegetable oil and stuff. And you're like, that's all a con. And then you start seeing all these cons around and you're like, and what it does, it actually makes you want to disintegrate more, because you go, you oversimplify your life from that system, because now you're like, well, you know what? I don't even know who's telling me the truth on any of that stuff. You're all bullshit artists as far as I can see, but you're not bullshit. Numbers aren't bullshitting me. Walking in sunlight aren't bullshitting me. And making my food at home can't bullshit me. Now, that takes a bit more responsibility to yourself, but I think Bitcoin gives you the encouragement to take responsibility, because it requires you to take responsibility of your money. And if you have to take responsibility of your money, then that is a really empowering thing where you start going, oh my God, what else can I take control of? Not in a tyrant way, but you should be a tyrant for your own body. Like, your body, if it needs water, give it water. If it needs sleep, give it sleep.
Talking about water, what's your thought about tap water, especially pumping all this chlorine? I understand to get rid of the bugs, and the fluoride as well, calcifying the pineal gland. I'm sure you've gone down that rabbit hole to an extent. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, but I mean, fluoride. Let's just look at it, right? There's a reason why fluoride's legal in water sources. It's only illegal in, I believe, 3 regions in the planet, and that's the USA, Canada, and Australia. And they've got the highest amount of dementia and Alzheimer's. Fluoride, I believe, was a tactic in war. It was brought out around that time during the Great War or World War II, where it was basically a mechanism for control. And now, do I think that the government's trying to control me through the water source? I mean, maybe. They're probably trying to just cool my brain down, or everyone's brain down, naturally. But let me tell you something. They are trying to make my teeth better. That's what I know. And so when they go, we put fluoride because it strengthens your teeth. What? Out of all the favours the government's going to do for me, it's teeth cleaning or teeth strengthening? Come on.
It doesn't make any sense, really.
It doesn't. But look, I'll play along if they want me to. Like, I'm happy to play ball, but come on, give me a better reason.
I'll let you think that I believe you when I'm definitely not going to be doing that. So takeaway for everyone, definitely do not drink tap water there. So you've got a fascination with prime numbers, Michael. And it is fascinating reading your tweets on X. What is it about prime numbers? I tweet at you a little bit like Tesla 369, the numbers of the universe, but you're taking it to a next level. Yeah. Where's your head at with these things?
Prime numbers, right? So for anyone watching, prime numbers are the money shot for everything. So as in, if you like Bitcoin, you love prime numbers. If you like the internet, you love prime numbers, because the only thing that makes your key to your Bitcoin wallet effectively, like your cryptography, prime numbers are the ingredient, let's say. So anything cooked in cryptography, meaning like any recipe we make, it's going to have prime numbers. It's like adding water to pasta. Like, that it's a must-have. Okay. And so with that foundation of persistence and necessity, again, coming back to remember how I was like, your shit's changing around me that I got no control over, and I'm tired of building on shaky ground. Well, I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to look at things that don't change. Prime numbers don't change, numbers don't change, and these persistent things, so that I could compound my understanding of them. Because if you can't compound your understanding of stuff, if they change all the time, because it's like saying, I'm going to compound my understanding of the character from this show. Well, there's a new show every week. So you're like, well, I can't because it's just changed and he's become a different character. And so prime numbers for me were this persistent identity through everything. And so, the internet's dependent on them through cryptography, and cryptography is dependent on them. If you don't have prime numbers, you don't have cryptography. And so I was like, well, they're going to persist a while because cryptography's got to persist a while, because if they doesn't, we don't have Bitcoin, we don't have the internet. And so that for me was like, well, that's a great place to put my time and energy. If I've got a long time preference, I don't mind being wrong for 20 years. I'm happy to do that. I'm the idiot. Like, I'm the guy I'll be the first to be wrong, and I'm wrong at lots of stuff, and I've sucked at lots of stuff my entire life. So being wrong at stuff isn't a problem to me. Like, some people got real ego about that shit. Yeah. I've never been right before, so I'm more wrong than right all the time. So for me, it's like water off a duck's back. And so for me, I was like, well, let's go for it. Let's have a look at these things, because they are the most important things in the world right now. We just don't all see it. We all are all starting to sort of understand and appreciate the strength of cryptography now that we've all got Bitcoin, because Bitcoin's like a translator. It doesn't say, here's the bare metal maths equations. It goes, hey, I've assembled all these numbers into a pretty product for you. But it's all just numbers and maths and prime numbers. And so as we start picking apart that, or understanding the foundations we're building our wealth on, then we get to go, well, what's behind this? Like, is it really secure? And then people's interests start growing into, cryptography and numbers and prime numbers. And I think it's a great gateway for us to keep growing our knowledge on stuff. And so, I don't know. That's why prime numbers to me are pretty cool. They're pretty cool. They pack a powerful punch, like Atlas, the character who has the world on his shoulders. Yeah. That's, if you want to if he's wearing a headband, it says, I'm a prime number. That's basically how you can think of it.
Yeah. So switching gears, but Atlas Shrugged, Galt's Gulch. People are starting to build these citadels because they have hope, and Bitcoin's brought this hope back. What are some of the exciting things that you see over the next, say, 12, 18, 24 months if the halving traditionally plays out?
It will.
Like it has.
It has to. It has to. Here's going to be a weird... Look, firstly, 18 to 24 months, your phone's going to ring a lot more. If you're in Bitcoin, it's going to ring a lot more.
It hasn't started yet, though.
It will. Mine started. I'm getting the same people crawling out of the woodwork say, hey man, you got 20 minutes to chat or whatever. And I've always got 20 minutes to, I'll make the time because maybe I'm just insecure and I want to talk about something that, I can share knowledge on, because it does, there's something gratifying about being able to share knowledge, and you learn when you teach. I think there's some relationship.
100% you do. It allows you to articulate it clearer.
It forces you to articulate it. In the same way, let's say on x.com or these websites, if you can do long form posts, the original design behind lower character limits, I thought, was it forces you to compress what you're doing into smaller amounts. So compression is understanding. If I can shrink something down to a very simple analogy, then that means that I understand it quite well. So I think it's interesting like that. I think there's something there. Learning, and But it's also really exciting to teach people because you get to see the zest in their eyes as the aha moment. That's so exciting.
When you can find that thing that lights them up, and then you can see that they're just going to carry that flame out there all by themselves.
Yes, and you know you push them off the wharf and you know that they're going to drive off into the sunset. Yeah, there's something really important. It's like, and teachers would think about that, I'd say, when they, the term, like a teacher, they touch the heart of a child, like, and that's what inspires their fire to burn.
I like that.
I think that's really, that's what happens with Bitcoin. You get to share these experiences and people come to you with, oh, you'll never guess what happened. And usually that list of things that happened, you've seen it before and you can help them out of that. And that to them, they go, oh my God, I just had a really big problem and someone also shared that problem and they got a solution. That's a really, really good feedback loop. And that's a really encouraging environment to persist through because that's like wow, this is a really co-supportive, many hands make light work sort of environment. And I think a lot of people are looking for that because one of the things that's really important as well is psychological safety. So if you look at Google, their entire company, they were measuring what are the best performing teams and what are the attributes that they all share, or if any. And so basically they had 1,000 teams in Google, internal teams, these product teams, blah, blah, blah. They put them all together. I mean, they didn't put them all together, they evaluated them all. And they gave them all different attributes that they could possess to be scored on. And one of the attributes, so take the top 10 out of 1,000, and the top 10 of those all shared the same outlier of an attribute. And that attribute was psychological safety. And what that means is that if you're a 10-year veteran and I'm a 6-month, I've been here for 6 weeks, you treat me like an opportunity to share your knowledge instead of let me show you how much you don't know. Do you know what I mean? So
100%.
I'm not going to talk down to you because this is your first day. I'm actually going to try and elevate you a lot. And that psychological safety produces an environment where I can say, if I don't know something, I don't need to go, oh, I don't want to sound like an idiot. Like, everyone's an idiot. So it's like, guys, this is going to sound super stupid. What's a Bitcoin? Oh, whatever it is, some basic question. And if that's received with, oh, let me show you, let me guide you and show you, help understand that.
Yeah.
This was called psychological safety. Typically, that's a close relationship with ego, especially internally, because these egos are what decouples psychology and safety, or psychological safety, right? If someone's got a very high ego, that can be something where they don't want someone to perhaps increase their knowledge because it could threaten their position. And so now we have gatekeeping and withholding of information. And I think that Bitcoin, because it's open source in its nature, it's the sort of opposite. So you get psychological safety out of the box almost, at least in real world meetups. Maybe on Twitter you get a shit sandwich here and there, but that's normal. It's discourse. That's it. That's not real life. Real life is here when you're shaking hands with someone and stuff. Obviously Twitter's real, but you know what I mean? Like those words aren't as real. It's better just see people in person. I'm sure they've got a lot to offer you.
That's right. So before the teaching tangent, why does this cycle have to play out the same as every other cycle?
Just because the supply and demand laws are still there. So this cycle will still have a pump. It will be an astronomical whoa, which we've already started seeing. And we're already immune to this, but Bitcoin's up a lot in a really short amount of time. Like 6 months or something, it's gone way up really quickly.
Yeah.
And now we're sort of almost thinking like, well, when's the cycle going to start? But it's already pumping like crazy. And so it's insane, our lens, how we're kind of so accustomed to things. But I think this cycle, we will see the same thing. Supply and demand won't change. As in the supply and demand relationship won't change. So it will pump. There's some curveballs in there this time, though. We have bigger pipes feeding money into the system. Those pipes are called ETFs. So now, whether they are long-term good or bad, I still don't know. But I know that short-term, they're going to be good for price because they've just got an extremely large amount of buying power.
On that, so that we have seen a lot of money come in. I believe the better they perform, it incentivizes. It becomes an easier sale. Like people feel safer when when it's going up more and more, and they'll be like, "Well, we got our client 100% in 3 months," and then people hear that and they're like, "I want 100%."
Of course.
So they come in, but also the outflows can happen a lot quicker as well. So it's a double-edged sword.
Yep.
How do you see this cycle playing out? Just talking about the ETFs, a lot of money comes in, we go higher than we thought would happen, but then we fall harder and maybe
Absolutely.
have a bigger correction than we've ever had?
Yeah, I definitely think for dollar-wise, it will be a way bigger correction than we've ever had just because of the magnitude we're operating. But yeah, I think it's going to be a bigger correction because people love ETFs now because it's pumping the price. Well, those same fickle hands that are jumping on board really quickly because of the gains, they're going to leave just as quickly. And so you've got to be realistic with your expectations on these things because if they're easy come, easy go. And I think that's just always a really good compass in this space, easy come, easy go. You look at these things that, some new coin's been launched and it's going up way more than everything else. It's like, well, yeah, dude, now watch this. And like it just all ready up, ready down. So I do think that's also to the essence of Bitcoin because it's not easy come. It's actually the most difficult come. It's like, if you think about it, it's like, the miners to produce Bitcoins, it's literally the hardest job on earth. You've got to go pour concrete. You've got to go compete against dudes that have probably got more money, better energy and all this stuff. And you still got to be hopeful that you'll be able to be successful. Like, it's insane. So I definitely think that be mindful of, what does my brother say? The Lord giveth, the Lord taketh sort of thing. Yeah. So, whatever the velocity was of the upside, expect the same velocity on the downside.
Yeah. So we're not going to know, and like hindsight's 2020, sure. So it's all a little bit of speculation. Yeah. But you've obviously got very great insights running an exchange, and definitely check out that other video that you and I did together. Yeah. That was phenomenal. Do you think, you said in dollar-wise it could come down a lot more like market cap, trillions of dollars come in, trillions of dollars come out, but what about the percentage drawdown? Do you still think it'll be like 80+%, or that may be lower? It'll just be the money flowing out?
No, I think look, if we go to, I don't think it'll look too different to other cycles in that, we'll pop to, 220, 250K US, and then we'll pull back to, 60 to 80K, and then that's the bear market baseline. Yeah. I think that behavior, now what those numbers are, I don't know, but the behavior of really aggressive acceleration, pull back, but not lower than last time's all-time high almost. So it's like the lowest it will go in a pullback will be the previous all-time high, I would say, if not above it. But I think these pullbacks and stuff are natural, but I do think that we still should expect these 50, 60, 70% corrections. So, unless you get what they call is like this super cycle, which is where it just doesn't stop. You don't have the correction and there's just too much money pouring in.
I know your brothers very much thinks that we're going into a super cycle and $7 billion tomorrow, not tomorrow.
Right.
Absolutely. I wouldn't complain with that. And I ask people a lot of times, because both sides of the argument make sense. Yeah. And I feel like eventually we'll go into a super cycle.
It has to break, where the knowledge basically goes, this is a wasted, this is a terminally ill asset, which is the US dollar, right? And that once that clicks, it's just it's a run on the bank essentially. And that's where it goes, it just breaks upwards and it doesn't stop.
And what are your thoughts this year? You lived in the States for a long time and we're here in Australia. What are your thoughts around the election? And like we had all these bank failures. I think we even had one this year as well, but the second and third largest happened last year and they pretty much went unnoticed. They weren't really advertised or talked about.
It wasn't as big as you'd think, right?
For the second and third largest bank failures in US history, which is human history.
There'd be a bit more noise about it.
Absolutely. 100%. Do you see more of that type of thing happening, or we just won't
100%.
know? Yeah.
The banks are just like, they're not good at their jobs, basically. Like, they're not being dishonest, they're not being rude. They're not solvent. Like, you can't be a human being and be insolvent. You can't be a company and be insolvent. The banks, I think, look, credit to them. They've got a great position in the market, and they played in a game which was, an open game, and they won that game basically. But, I know that if I'm a bank, I don't really want to be a bank right now. And most likely, if I look at if you're a bank, I look at your balance sheet, I'm going to show you why you're fucked. And it's just a matter of, can you get a handout or not? And so banks are kind of like, handout optimization centers almost, where they figure out the most optimal way to get the most optimal amount of money. I wish they would just run well, because the world could run well with good quality banking. But no, if you're going to gamble and punt on everything with no downside risk and bailouts, then yeah, you're cooking us all. Banks or money not doing its job well is kind of akin to, or money printing, let's say, when you have that, that's sort of akin to being in a sauna and the temperature control being outside the sauna, but a lock on the door. So you're going to start feeling like, oh yeah, it's quite warm in here. And the Fed is out there with the dial, and you're looking like, is his hand on the fucking thing? I'm boiling hot in here already, and I can't get out. Like, and they're turning it up. Yeah. You're sitting there sweating, but you can't get out of it. And so Bitcoin's kind of this back door out of the sauna that's getting too hot for comfort. But I think about that analogy all the time, because I'm like, well, if that was the case, I would be horrified. And it's like, yeah, I feel like that's kind of the case where banks are sitting there with, look, good luck to them. I hope they do well. I hope they embrace Bitcoin. I think they should. But the incentives, I don't think, are there. There's way easier ways for them to make money. Absolutely. And I get that. I understand that. They're playing a capitalist environment, capitalist game. They're going to make money the easiest way possible. If you show them a way to make money really easily, they will jump on it, which is why we'll see a lot of exposure as, just like you were mentioning before, as these ETF products start running in terms of their ROIs or their multiples or their performance, then that gets on other radars. It gets into, the NASDAQ 500 or whatever it is, where they are listed in the aggregate funds of funds or whatever. But having the performance, people will get FOMO in that world, and they don't care what they're going into. They're going into the thing that went up heaps and is going to keep going up heaps, forever. Whatever that is. Laura. They don't care what the asset is. They're just like, yeah, chuck us in the thing that's going up. So I think they'll get on board in a good way. But yeah, time will tell. I just don't know. I think they kind of dropped the ball. Like, I don't understand how you can have fractional reserves. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. So I'm uninformed, I guess.
Well, it doesn't make sense, and everyone knew it didn't make sense, and they didn't want the Federal Reserve in the States for that reason, fractional reserve, and giving people that power, and they pushed it through. So I don't think it makes sense to anyone unless they're seeking power. Yeah. What book should people...
Crypto Sovereignty.
So I had Eric on, and all week, so I finished the Crypto Sovereignty. When I first started reading it, I'd gotten to 45%, started telling my wife about it. She took the book off me and banned me from reading it that weekend, because I was from here to here, and she's like, if I don't know you, I thought you were on drugs. I'm like, this thing's happening. She's like, I don't care if it's happening or not. Yeah. You're not sounding reasonable. And so I started reading this Bubblegum book, which was a fun adventure story. It's great. Yeah. That book, read 4 or 5 other Bitcoin books first.
Oh, yeah, I'd say but the Bitcoin Standard.
Yeah, surely, yeah. But it's an absolutely incredible book, isn't it?
Well, I think it teaches you, crypto sovereignty is... I got to learn this on the job, which was how powerful cryptography is. Yeah. And it's like... you can be the biggest Fort Knox in the world, but if your keys aren't secure, you don't have anything. And, cryptography was sort of like this unbreakable thing. And that's really powerful. And so once you start understanding that, it's almost like you never have sovereignty until you have cryptography, because cryptography, you're the only person who knows your number. I'm the only person who knows my number. But the strength in that, and as you start realizing, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. Like, that's a really powerful thing. And so I think the understanding of why cryptography is so, what do you want to call it? Unlimiting or emancipating or something like it blows your mind after you realize you've never really owned anything until cryptography. Like, on digitally anyway. It's never been yours unless it's cryptographically secure. And so that introduces this huge conversation about, well, if I can't secure it, then it's not really mine. And I just think the essence of sovereignty and cryptography and what they represent, I think, Eric's obviously is super, super smart and super, super experienced in this, which I really enjoy just listening to him and learning from, that start, all his talks and all his books, talks, anything. Like, you're drinking from the fire hose, but you do have to have this experience of understanding why cryptography is so empowering, and not in a malicious way or anything, in a truly hopeful way, because it does make you go, oh my God, that's mine. That's my little slice of whatever. Cool, it's mine though. Just like the same way when someone rides a bike, they feel empowered in a way. Or driving a car, you can feel empowered because you can go places. I think it's the same thing. And cryptography gives you a sort of that kind of oomph to your thoughts, where you go, well, these thoughts are mine, and cryptography, my key is mine, and you start realizing the definition of mine. You know what I mean? We've never really thought about, well, what's yours and what's mine? Well, is that your T-shirt? Well, it's your T-shirt until some guy comes in and you give me your T-shirt, you know? And it's sort of this weird thing, and we've never really owned property then, because it's always been on some ledger that someone else ran. But cryptography is this ledger of keys that everyone can pluck a key out from. It's like a flower with 2 to the 256 petals on it, and you can pluck your own petal off and it's yours.
Forever.
So, yeah, forever. And I think that's super cool. And when forever becomes the time horizon, it's like, wow, forever, that's heaps long. What else can be forever? And you start expanding your thought process beyond yourself and beyond into the realm of what can be, 20 years away, 50, 100 years away. I think it's just a sort of mind-expanding exercise almost, because it shows you can have things that last for a really, really long time. I don't know, it's just quite cool.
It's really cool.
Underrated cool, I think. You know what I mean? Like, I reckon everyone will end up geeking out about this, and Bitcoin's kind of a gateway to helping people geek out about it, I think.
Man,
hopefully.
You've gone down the rabbit hole.
I've drunk the Kool-Aid, gone down the rabbit hole. Help me get out of here if you can. I'm happy here.
It's so good, isn't it?
It's great.
Isn't it fantastic?
It's exciting. Well, I think, look, it gives you zest because there's new information.
Yeah, and you got hope again, like you're saying at the start.
Literally, you have hope again.
Yeah.
Like, if everything's burning down, like, imagine if you didn't have Bitcoin in this environment.
I don't think I could deal with it if there's no Bitcoin.
I'm not being rude. I don't think I have enough character in my soul to deal with it. I don't know what I'd do. I just walk around feeling like a crazy person. It makes you sort of understand what gold bugs go through.
I think, and I've been thinking about gold bugs as well lately, and my heart goes out to them because they were so right about so many things, and gold probably would have been a decent solution. But then Bitcoin came along and it's really taken away their use case and what they knew. And they've been waiting for this since we went off the gold standard, 1974.
Yes.
They've been calling it and they got it so right. So I feel for them.
Absolutely.
But there's nothing stopping them from buying Bitcoin and then coming over, and they will feel that hope. But without Bitcoin, the nihilism in this world is so asinine. It's so sick. It's so twisted. I think it would be very, very hard. And I understand a lot of people feel a lot of pain, but when you actually start studying Bitcoin, it's all gravy.
Yeah, 100%. Things start looking gravy.
Like really quick.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what's hard? So many things are pulling our mind in so many directions. You need this kind of opportunity to stop thinking for a sec and look at it without preconceived notions, or, it's like 10-year-olds or 15-year-olds will get Bitcoin faster than 45-year-olds.
Agreed.
Because they don't have a lens of comparison, and they don't have a built-up sort of, compounded incorrect information, which is, experience. What we call experience in the finance world is actually compounded incorrect information.
Yeah.
It's wrong. Like, the system doesn't work, it's broken, and you don't know what you're talking about. It's weird because people don't want to face that ego. Yeah. They don't want to go, what do you mean it doesn't work? It's like you can't balance the budget. It does not work. So you can tell me whatever you want. This product's great, this product's not great. You guys don't know how to balance the budget, so everything you're saying is moot, completely moot. Yeah. And so I think that humbling experience for a lot of these financial professionals is, they just got to relearn, but they will take a long time because the ego is protecting their knowledge, and that's why it's so hard for people to change their ways. And I say that everyone's like that in something in their life. There are things that we're all stubborn about. As much as we don't want to be, we are. And that's how we grow as people, where we drop our guard and we stop being stubborn about something and we expand our mind. And it's not always right, but it's the willingness to lower the ego or to get rid of it is what will help you get the most amount of information. And most amount of information, you'll be able to synthesize the most amount of information, which means you're doing yourself the best service you can. I've always thought that there's two superpowers today in modern day: humility and empathy. If you can, if you're humble enough to, let's say we're having a conversation, you're the smartest person in the world and you know everything.
You are delusional.
No. Imagine if you were delusional and you truly were.
Imagine.
That'd be cool. So humility and empathy. humility allows me, it's like a pipe of information, right? Like a flowing pipe of water. The more humble you are, the bigger the pipe. Meaning this pipe is all the information flowing towards you, right? If you're very arrogant, you're going to be stuck in your ways and you're going to stop information from coming to your brain. Whether people are talking about it or not, it's going to get stopped because you go, no, that's bullshit. It's like, oh, Bitcoin's really good. You don't know anything. I've got 40 years experience. You find it, blah, blah, blah. Great. Your arrogance just costs you an opportunity. And so if we look at the opportunities to grow as individuals, there's two capacities. The humility allows the pipe to be bigger. And so I want the maximum amount of information coming in as a being of information. Humility is the pipe size and empathy is the other superpower. So if I'm getting lots of information, I don't know how to interpret that information correctly unless I can empathize with the subject that's giving me the information. Because what that empathy will do, it will show me how do I receive the information as intended. Because if I don't empathize with you, then I'll never know how you were trying to share that information. Because a lot of people can't communicate as well as others. So they might say something, but it's sort of they're trying to mean something else. And when people understand each other, it's like, hey, I know you said that. I know what you mean. I get what you're saying. Like you can compute things faster. So the translation between information becomes faster, the feedback loop. If I understand you 100%, there'll never be oh, what did you mean by that? And now that's latency. When I ask you a question about what you meant and I didn't totally understand it correctly, we now have latency. We've now delayed our information consumption. So I think humility and empathy are these two superpowers, especially today. Discipline is a rare character at the moment. And it's very hard because our dopamine systems are getting fried willy-nilly because we're staring at phones all day. A million things pulling us in a million different directions. So it's super challenging, but I think that if you're trying to, rebuild and or trying to just, grow, I think being humble and being empathetic can be two really powerful tools to help you understand more faster.
What I think about that is like listening to you is drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. What I'd like to say is well done on the 21 million steps. That's incredible proof of work. That video we did last time, well worth checking out. You're on X, but where can we redirect? All your podcasts, just search for Michael Dunworth and listen to every podcast he's done. Dale Warburton, really epic. You've been on there a few times as well. I love your yarns with Dale. But where would you like to send people, Michael?
Wherever they want to go wherever you want. But I'm on X. Oh, it's weird. I've always said Twitter, but I'm on X. YouTube, you can Google it, and then GitHub, Mike D123. That's me.
And on the GitHub, you've published the keys to those Bitcoin wallets that you sent Bitcoin out into the future as well. This one is for you.
Thank you very much.
We'll make sure we get the size right.
Let me just show everyone. Yeah, buddy. Thank you. I'm really happy with this. I really appreciate it.
No, it's my pleasure, man. Thank you. Cheers.
Thanks. Done.
Done.
Wow. Bye, guys.